The champions begin their defence at the London Stadium, and they absolutely ran West Ham ragged. Joao Cancelo took his time, picked his spot. Haaland's looking to get that, he will do! Great chance at City in front already. Jack Grealish. The cross comes in from another Foden.
It couldn't get any better, Ali. It's absolutely magical here at the Etihad.
We are in the presence of something really special. I think we know that. The numbers that he's hitting at the start of this season, he's unplayable.
Shooting chance! What a strike! Kevin De Bruyne!
Erling Haaland scores! The shirt is off!
RB Leipzig.
Time before Christmas, let's make some noise for our champions, Manchester City! And off the coach, our manager, giving up for Pep Guardiola. Pep and the backroom staff are making their way into the building. It's an early kick-off. Premier League action is back at the Etihad, 12:30. Kick-off, and Brentford are the visitors. This is only the third meeting between Pep and Thomas Frank. The other two came last season in the Premier League. As we welcome our first player off the coach, make some noise for Rodri, followed by Joao Cancelo. Next up the blue carpet, make some noise for Manuel Akanji. West reception, you've gone quiet. We need more noise as we welcome off the coach, Aymeric Laporte, followed by Bernardo Silva. Make some noise for John Stones, Ruben Diaz. Two City Academy graduates, Rico Lewis and Cole Palmer, with our captain, Ilkay Gundogan. He kept a clean sheet and was man of the match midweek. Stefan Ortega Moreno, followed by Scott Carson, Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden. Next up the blue carpet, make some noise for Sergio Gomez and our number 10, give it up for Jack Grealish. With 5 goals in his last 7 games, it's Julian Alvarez, followed by Ederson. As we wait, is that it, or is there one more or two more? Oh, it is, with 18 Premier League goals so far this season. Make some noise for Erling Haaland! And great to see him back. He made an appearance midweek again. Make some noise for Calvin Phillips. And last but not least, with a sublime free kick midweek, it's Riyad Mahrez.
A very good morning, I should say, because we are the early kick-off in the Premier League today. Welcome along to Matchday Live. My name is Cel Spellman, and what a treat we have in store for you. You can see to my left, we have an awesome panel. I'm so excited to get into today's show because we are joined by the legend that is Mr. Paul Dickov, the legend that is Mr. Shay Given, and for his first time on Matchday Live, tennis star Liam Broady. What a lineup! I think Pep Guardiola would be happy with this this side I've chosen here. Liam, welcome along to the show. Lifelong City fan. What have you made of City's season so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been unbelievable. I think it's frustrating because I've been telling everyone, obviously, that we're the best team in the world at the moment. But all the Arsenal fans keep on telling me, well, we're having a better season, aren't we? But I don't know, I feel like if the game against Arsenal hadn't been cancelled earlier in the season, I think we'd be top. But I mean, it's a good time to be a City fan, that's for sure.
It's a great time to be a City fan. There's been a lot of chat here in the studio around fantasy football team as well. Of course, around one man. How much have you enjoyed seeing Erling Haaland play?
It's been insane. I mean, I've been lucky enough to see him play once already live. That was the Forest game, and I think he scored a header. It was a hat-trick, and the header he scored, I mean, his foot was almost higher than the crossbar. It's just incredible to see him live. Sometimes you can't really pick up on TV just how good someone is, whereas his speed and his strength, it blows your mind. Yeah.
Shay, so great to be back with you on the show. City have been in imperious form, particularly over these last 6 weeks. I mean, it still feels as though there's another level for Pep to unlock with them, do you think?
Yeah, I suppose. I was here last week at the Fulham game. I was watching. I was next door actually.
Yeah, you were just over
with my son, and it was a nervy, obviously, finish with Haaland's penalty in injury time. And I think that sort of showed everyone the momentum, the mindset of the team of Pep. Of the squad of players. That the celebrations after the game showed what it meant, because obviously getting that sending off early on in the first half, it was a very, very big 3 points come the end of the season. And as Liam says, obviously Arsenal at the top of the league, but I think in a 2-horse race or many horses, a 3-horse race, they're just sort of sitting here just waiting. Hopefully they punch, in the second half of the season. We
seem to sit well there in second, and Paul, hopefully we can finish strong. Obviously, it's the last game before the World Cup. But you might have a bit of insider knowledge, because we know your son Max is playing for Brentford B team. He's had a kind of slow, was unlucky with the start of the season, but he's hit some great form, hasn't he?
He has. He's done really well. From where he was this time last year, playing semi-pro in the Northwest Counties, taken into a Premier League club, and he's loving it. I've been trying to pick his brains all week about what Brentford are going to do. He's gave me a little bit of insight, but I don't want him to get sacked. You know what I mean? By giving a few things away. But now, look, it's been great for him, and I've got to speak really highly of Brentford, how they look after their players, how they are as a club. They're really, really top class. Do things slightly differently. But on and off the pitch, you can tell why they've done so well. The team spirit is amazing. Yeah. Thomas Frank's got a group of players that will work their absolute socks off. And they're all buying into what he's going to do, and if anything, they're probably punching over their weight a little bit. Yeah, no, we have to get it in there. I mean, Max's stats, because I know he's been working incredibly hard. He's had three goals and 4 assists the last few games, so he takes after his mother.
I was going to say that.
Get it in there. Yeah. Well, listen, this is the first place where we bring you team news, which I can bring you in just a second. But remember, of course, now, as you can see with this panel, why would you not want to get a question into us? So if you've got any burning questions, or maybe you want to pass comment on the team news that's coming in, or anything we talk about on the show, if you use that number below, that's how you can get in contact with us. And then I'm going to be putting those to our guests a little bit later on. So maybe if you've got a question around tennis, maybe for Liam, or maybe something around kind of maybe Stefan Ortega from that performance we saw, I'm going to be putting that to Shay in just a little bit. That is that all-important WhatsApp number for you to get involved with. And please do that, because the show is all about you, and we absolutely love you getting involved. But without further ado, let me bring you Manchester City starting 11. The first place you can hear the team news is right here on Matchday Live. So let's bring it you right now. Does he start for anyone in the Fantasy Football League? Have you made him captain? I hope you have, because Haaland does start. He is in our starting 11. Let me run you through it now, though. Ederson starts in goal. A back four consisting of John Stones, Akanji, Laporte and Cancelo. Then we move to our midfield. Rodri holding alongside Ilkay Gundogan, who captains the side. Partnering them is that king, Kevin De Bruyne. And then a forward three of Bernardo Silva, who I really felt kind of came on and made a massive difference in the Fulham game. Phil Foden comes back into the starting 11, and there he is, our number 9, our Viking, Erling Haaland, completes our 11. On the bench, we look at Stefan Ortega, Ruben Diaz, Calvin Phillips, of course, back in the squad after that 44-minute cameo against Fulham as well. Great to see him at the Etihad pitch. Jack Grealish, Julian Alvarez, who has also been in great form, Riyad Mahrez, Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis. Liam, we're glad that we put Haaland in, aren't we? And we're glad that we made him captain.
Yeah, I actually had him on the bench and Kane captain. I was convinced he wasn't going to play, and then Shay and Paul come in and switch the team around straight away. So yeah. You'd
like to think possibly in today's game there could be a few goals for him. Do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were just saying the odds on him to score a hat trick were 9 to 1, weren't they?
Ridiculous.
And I think if he scores early, you'd always back him to score more, especially at home this season. He's been incredible. So it's the Erling Haaland show at the moment, I guess.
Shay, Phil Foden comes back into the starting 11. We've kind of seen him come on from the bench in Fulham, but great to kind of have him starting, and he seems to be having a cracking season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much competition for that position, isn't there? The forward positions, Haaland, you mentioned, of course, is nearly an automatic starter when he's fit. But obviously Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, all these different players, Bernardo Silva, they're all fighting for the position, you know. But Foden's having a great season as well, and you know, he won his show again now that, as you said, the last game before the World Cup, and showed Gareth Southgate as well as Pep Guardiola that, you know, he's ready and raring for the World Cup as well. And hopefully they can get off with 3 points today, and there's a little break, obviously, with the World Cup, you know. But yes, again, every time, you know, Phil or Jack or whoever else gets a chance or gets an opportunity, they have to show to Pep Guardiola that they can't leave him out for next game, you know, albeit that's a few weeks away.
Yeah, absolutely. On the World Cup thing, Shay, as well, there's been that kind of conversation, and Pep was asked about it. Will players, either consciously or subconsciously, have their mind a little bit thinking, right, I don't want to pick up an injury here ahead of the World Cup? Or do you think they are the consummate professionals and will attack this
I think you'll be in the zone today, the lads warming up and stuff and getting in the zone for the game today. I really do. You have to have that mindset that focus on today's performance. You know, don't go in half-heartedly tackles or challenges, because that's when you do get injuries.
Yes.
You know, if you're sort of thinking, I don't want to go into that, then you come out worse off, you know. So I think once that referee's whistle goes and they cross the white line, you know, all they want to do is focus on Manchester City, getting the 3 points, and touch wood, you know, no player in the Premier League gets a bad injury for the World Cup.
Fingers crossed. We have got John Stones on the pitch alongside Akanji. We assume, and the preference seems to have been there from what we've seen, Paul, Stones at right back. Why is that, do you think, Alex? Because Akanji's tried it, but Stones is the preference.
Yeah, I think Stones played there a couple of times last season as well. It actually looks really comfortable there. But they can flip it around. You know what this team's like. They interchange all the time. So for any reason John finds himself in the middle, then Akanji can quite comfortably slot in out there. But it's great to see John being back and getting a run of games under his belt. You know, because I don't think there's an open right back. I don't think there's a better centre-half, English centre-half in the Premier League than him once he gets a run of games, you know.
Yes.
Important for him, like it is with other players, to go into the World Cup with a bit of form. I think John would rather play centre-half than being left one-on-one with a winner.
Because obviously Ivan Toney for Brentford is a bit of a big target man as well, and obviously John Stones has a bit more height than Akanji, so it'd be interesting to see what way Pep lines up, you know, because I'd imagine they'll try and miss out City's high press and maybe hit Toney more direct maybe today.
We were speaking with Joleon Lescott on the show, Liam, and saying that he doesn't know if he's seen in the Premier League a better group of centre-halves in one team when you look at Diaz, Laporte, Akanji and Stones. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, when you actually look at it, I was actually just thinking that about the forward lineup as well. That it's probably the only team in the Premier League where you'd have, you know, your Mahrez's, your Grealishes, your Fodens, all, you know, every week you don't know who's going to start. Whereas in every other Premier League team, I think the form that they're all in, they'd all be starting. And I think it's very similar with the defensive lineups as well. I mean, you know, your Cancelos, your Akanji's been incredible for us this season as well. I mean, Ake, I don't think's put a foot wrong.
Yes.
Diaz not in the team?
Diaz is on the bench.
Diaz is on the bench as well. I mean, they're all playing incredible, but you know the competition's so strong between them all, and I think that's obviously a part of the huge success that City have had over the recent years as well.
I think the recruitment as well on that, because you know maybe 3 years ago we were looking at Vincent. If Vincent was out, we were all panicking.
It was a big hole,
There was nobody there to come in, you know, and that's no disrespect to likes of Otamendi and people like that. But in the space of 3 or 4 years, when we're thinking we might have one or two top-class centre-halves, we've got 4 or 5 now.
I think the signing of Akanji,
fantastic.
Was it on deadline day?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's been absolutely incredible.
It went on the radar a bit as well, because it was like the fee they paid for him as well, and in the current climate with the big fees going on, you thought, because I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot about him, and I thought he must be just coming in as a backup centre-half. But he's come in and he's more or less played every game, and he's been absolutely brilliant.
I mean, he looks. I think there's been a few comparisons. No one's ever. You're going to be hard to hold a light to him, but in just the way he plays, Vincent Kompany, I think in his physique and actually the way he kind of reads the game and his distribution as well, Paul, there are those similarities.
He's so comfortable in the ball, you know, and I think the biggest compliment you can pay him is he's been here 2 or 3 months now. He looks as if he's been in the team for 3 years. You know, he only trained a couple of days before he made his debut, and he looked as if he'd been at the club all the time. You know, he's very comfortable coming out with the ball at the back. And I think people, because he's went under the radar, you know, he's really experienced as well. Champions League with Dortmund, loads of international games for Switzerland. You know, he's played in major championships with them as well. And he just seems to have a calming influence about him. And today it'll be interesting what Shay's saying with Ivan Toney, because he's a handful.
Yeah.
You know, and he's going to try and rough our centre-halves up today, but I think the guys that are out there will be ready for it and be able to handle it.
Shay, just continuing this kind of conversation, I think what I picked up particularly on this show is they always talk about, you know, you can kind of rotate a lot on the pitch, but a centre-half partnership, you kind of want a bit of consistency. But Pep again seems to have flipped it now where we don't know what pairing we're going to get, like Ake and Akanji, or Laporte and Akanji, or Diaz and Laporte. But whichever partnership, whoever they play with, they seem to go almost like they played together all season. How difficult is it to do that?
Yeah, I think in an ideal world you'd like a settled back four, especially the goalkeeper, like, you know, the four players you're used to playing behind. Obviously, Kyle Walker's a miss because naturally he'll be your normal right back, wouldn't he? He's a brilliant right back and would take that position. But Stones, as you say, is fitted in there. Akanji's fitted in really well. I mean, I think it comes down to the manager because he coaches him on a daily basis. You know, it goes back to Ederson. You know, you got to split, you got to get into positions. Obviously, defensive, we're a bit more solid and stuff. But I think if he changes one the following week, the same player knows the same. Not robotic as such, but it sort of feels that way when they make them change. It doesn't seem that drastic.
They know their roles.
They know their roles, responsibilities, what he wants from them. You know, so it's very important.
Absolutely, Liam. We've got Bernardo Silva coming back into the fold. I kind of mentioned there at the start of the show. I really felt he came on as he always does and impacts the game. He's felt like a new signing, hasn't he? Especially because there was that talk in the summer, wasn't of him potentially going.
Leaving, I think this season he's not put a foot wrong. He's not put a foot wrong on fantasy either. He's been very solid on fantasy. But I think him coming on against Fulham, I mean, he does the work of 2 or 3 players sometimes. So going down to 10, I think bringing him on, you know, you see that work ethic in midfield. I think he can almost make up for having one less player than the other team a little bit sometimes. And I saw people were saying Conor Gallagher, with his energy, you know, being selected in the England squad. I mean, obviously, not comparing the two, but the energy of the two of them. And Bernardo Silva, I felt like against Fulham, it was kind of similar to that in the sense that he runs so much that you kind of miss that red-carded player a little bit less.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to mention the main man as well, Paul. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne just seems to have kind of, you know, doesn't stop and continues in this unbelievable vein of form. The king.
He's the best, isn't he? Yeah. You know, when you think his levels can't get any higher, he just takes it to another level again. And I think everybody's talking about Erling Haaland and the goals he scores, but I think Kevin's loving having him in the team as well. You know, Kevin wants to score goals, but he prides himself in getting assists more than anything else. And is it 9 or 10 he's got already this season? Yeah. But he's just sensational. I've said it all along for the last year or so. I don't think he's just the best midfielder in the Premier League. I think at the minute he's the best midfielder in the world.
I would agree.
The best player.
I'd agree. Shay, would you agree with that?
I mean, last week Fulham, we mentioned Fulham game, how important that was. I mean, Haaland got the headlines because he scored such a late penalty. I mean, De Bruyne won the penalty, but in that game alone, as you mentioned about people, you know, making up for the lost number, you know, for the 10 players, he just kept going and going and going, and he sort of strikes me as the sort of person when your back's up against it in sport and any sport, in tennis, whatever, he sort of
digs deep.
He digs deeper than anyone else. Keeps going, he keeps going, and he actually raises his game. I know if that's possible because he's a brilliant player, but last week he was just phenomenal.
Pep talks about that. Sorry,
he takes the responsibility to raise his game to try and drag everybody else along with him, and others it's infectious. You know, everybody else reacts to it a bit like Bernardo Silva, like what you were saying.
I think that sometimes people actually underestimate how fit and how strong Kevin is as well, because he's so good on the ball. People don't realise how good he is physically.
Yes, and you have to see him live to actually see the running he does. I remember, this will sound so small, when we had the Villa game the end of last season to win the league, and obviously we were down, weren't we, by 2 goals. I remember there was a moment, this will sound so small, I might have been reading into it, right? But like just after they'd scored, Kev was walking back, and you know when he almost like just breathed in and was like, all right, let me, and he like laced up his boots. Now, I remember, you can ask my dad, I said, Kev will sort this out here. And he just, it's like you don't think he's got another level, and then he does that again. Have you two ever played with players like that just seem to, in those moments, and Pep talks about that, when the back is against the wall, they're the ones that step up and go, hang on, I've got you.
I think it sort of separates the top players from the players below, perhaps, you know, instead of maybe midfielders will go, you don't fancy this 2-0 down, the pressure's really on now, you know, how are we going to win the league now? 2-0 down with Villa at home in the last game of the season. But he's actually the opposite. You said you've sort of painted the picture there. Pull the socks up, near enough roll the sleeves up. And I'm going to drag this team through this, and we're going to be super positive and get the result, and obviously win the league.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think Pep said as well is going to be key to our success this season. I just wanted to quickly pick up on, well, Ederson, if he keeps a clean sheet today, will have 150 clean sheets in 196 games. That's the fastest keeper to do that in under 200 games. But we couldn't not mention, Shay, Stefan Ortega's performance in the middle of the week, League Cup against Chelsea. How impressed were you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game as well, watching just as a supporter again, and just, you know, I must be honest, I didn't see enough of him before he joined the football club, and then probably a bit like a lot of City fans, you're googling where's this guy come from, what's his sort of background and stuff, you know, and of course he is number 2 to Ederson, and you mentioned the clean sheets in the career he's had at Man City, absolutely phenomenal, you know, but it's definitely all right. Some of the saves he pulled off were absolutely immense, you know, and he played. I was at the Copenhagen game here as well a few weeks ago as well, and I was just saying to Paul off air there before, there was a ball played over the top in the first half. He's about 40 yards from goal, and he's come out. I'm thinking normally if it was me playing that time, I would be heading it as far up the pitch, or kicking it away from goal as far as
get it gone.
He's come out and he's chested it, and I think he's done a reverse into midfielder. I was like, he might as well leave his gloves in the change room. But you know, but the other night against in the cup against Chelsea, he proved what a brilliant goalkeeper is because some of the saves he made. But again, with the ball with his feet, and that's what Pep wants in these goalkeepers. He's absolutely phenomenal as well.
And again, Paul, we always talk about we have to give our nod of a hat to Cheeky because recruitment is just.
It is, and I remember Pep saying in the summer when we signed him that all the credit had to go to Cheeky and the recruitment team. You know, they're looking for a goalkeeper to push Ederson a little bit more than what he had done. But they're also looking for a goalkeeper that can play in Pep's way. And you know, the club's recruitment is sensational. You know, they know way ahead of the players that they're going to sign. You know, they've earmarked for certain times, and they know the type of player, but the type of character. But the day when they unveiled the Simons, I was really impressed. We were there together. Yeah. And he was such a humble guy, wasn't he? He spoke so well. His English was a lot better than mine. To get it done. But he just seemed really, really excited to be at the club, didn't he? And he wanted to know about the club. He was asking myself, asking Shay about what the club was like, asking these other players, and he just wanted to integrate in as much as he can. But as Shay said, you know, how we want to play, he's a perfect fit for backup for Ederson. Deserves a lot of credit because it must be so difficult being a number 2, Shay.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, Scotty Carson's in shot there as well. I mean, I was at Derby with Scotty Carson. He's a brilliant number 3 as well, but he's a great for the group, you know, because he's banter and whatever else keeps everyone really bubbly, keeps everyone lively within the group. And yeah, number 2 is probably one of the most difficult positions because you know he's good enough to play, as he's shown in the last couple of games when he has played, Stefan, that he's good enough to play probably in most first teams, you know. But you're at a big club like Manchester City, you have to bide your time, and if Ederson does get injured or suspended, you know, City know they've got a brilliant number 2 ready to come on and replace him.
Absolutely. We can see the Brentford players here came to have a little look around at the Etihad pitch before they headed back to kind of get ready to come out for warm. Just a quick mention before I bring you their team news. I think a few of you might be wondering, Cancelo, as we know, picked up the red card against Fulham. Well, I didn't realise this. Me and Liam were discussing this. You can actually serve that suspension in the League Cup. So because he didn't play in the middle of the week, that means he's now back to start against Brentford. But looking at those players on the pitch, let's find out who Mr. Frank has chosen as his starting 11 to take on Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. 12:30 kickoff as well, remember. And this is how they line up. So, of course, we've got Raya in net, then we've got Ramussen at the back. I think it's Jorgensen, me, of course, that'll be a name familiar with Manchester City fans who came through the academy, seen at Burnley, and now he's here against Brentford, for Brentford, sorry. We've got Pinnock, Henry's there as well, Onyeka, Janelt, Jensen, and Buemo, and captain the side, we've got Ivan Toney. I think we've got to start there, haven't we, Liam? Ivan Toney this year in particular has been a tour de force up front and a handful for any centre-halves that have come up against him.
I mean, it's funny, I was having a discussion with my brother yesterday about the England squad, and we were saying that we probably would have taken Toney, partly because of how good he is with his penalties.
Yes.
But he's deadly in front of goal. He's strong as well. He's a target. He's got ice in his veins at times. I mean, he'll be difficult to handle today, but obviously I think we got the players to handle him.
Speaking of penalties, a great stat here. Only 2 players have taken more spot kicks in the competition without missing. Do you know who the other 2 players might be? Who've taken that many penalties and not missed? One of them played for City.
I was going to say, Balotelli?
No. I don't think he took enough.
Oh, right.
City
Paul
player.
Dickov?
I can categorically say no on that one.
No, it was Yaya Toure and Berbatov.
Oh,
okay. Yaya would just bury
yeah. Anything around the box, that guy.
It'd be actually interesting to see Tony today, because as Liam says, he's a brilliant player, he's had a brilliant season. Now he's had the disappointment, obviously, yesterday of missing out on a World Cup squad.
Yes.
How does he respond? How does he react to that? Does he come out today and show, I should be on that plane? For all we know, someone else could pick an injury up today, and then his automatic Gareth goes, I'm in. But at the same time, I think in March, the European things come again, so maybe it's an opportunity to show again today also how good he is, but also has this break now to recharge, come back strong again for December, January, and then maybe Ben Gareth Southgate's plans for the Euros.
And he's still so young, really. So obviously, I mean, surely, of course, we understand devastating to not make the World Cup squad, especially when you played the way you have. But actually, there's still, it's not like it's going to be his last chance to play in a World Cup, is it?
I mean, the rise he's had been unbelievable. He was a Newcastle release for not much money and had a great time at Peterborough. Now Brentford, he's been absolutely phenomenal. I think they got him for maybe 10 million or something, and what's he worth in today's market? It'd be interesting to see how they play today, because I really like Thomas Frank as the coach. I think how he plays his teams through the lines, through and out from the back. Ray, we talk about brilliant goalkeeper with the ball at his feet, but I actually think they'll miss out that press today.
Yes.
Because Man City are so good with the press, you know, so I think they'll go more direct into Tony and try and play off him.
And then how do you think City combat that then, Paul? Obviously, as you say, if Frank maybe just change his tactics slightly.
I think second balls will be massive. You know, Brentford do work very, very hard. I'm pretty sure, like Shay says, that they're going to go long at every opportunity, because they know if they try and play out, City's going to be on top of them. But you know, picking up the second balls and then being patient. You know, like so many teams come here and play with a low block, which Brentford will do today.
Yes.
But we've been up against that so many times. It's been physically challenging today. You know, they're a big, strong team. Set pieces are going to be massive, because Brentford rely and work a lot on set pieces. But from City's point of view, it's nothing that they've not come up against before. You know, just that bit of patience. And they believe patience, the quality we've got in the team will always shine through. But it'll be difficult. The first 20 minutes will be really difficult.
What I do like about Frank, because he is a coach or a manager that does like to play football, but he is a coach or manager can change that as well. And I think, as Paul mentions, we'll see probably more today when the game kicks off. They will be more direct. They will miss out the press, because he probably knows we're not good enough to play through the press of, we talk about De Bruyne's and Foden's and Haaland, the press. So we're going to try and miss that out, because you know, some managers and coaches are only play from the back, and I can't change how I play. And I think it's quite refreshing that Frank goes, hang on a minute, we ain't good enough to go to the Etihad and play out from the back, so I'm going to change how we play today.
He trusts his players as well, which is massive. Whatever system they play, whoever comes in, whether it's 5 at the back, 4, or whether they play through the lines or they go longer, he trusts his players to go out there and do that, and you can tell that's why they've been so successful.
Absolutely.
Because the players trust him as well, which is huge.
Yeah, that's it. It's got to be a mutual thing, hasn't it? Ben Mee, Liam as well. That's, of course, a name that all City fans know. He's actually the only player in the team that will have scored against Manchester City. He scored against us for Burnley, it was, back in January 2017. He just seems to have kind of kept a level wherever he's been, and it's actually great to see, even just to know that he's come from City.
Yeah, I think it's good for the academy as well, you know, for players to keep knowing that there's a route through. And I think Ben, you know, he's a very good Premier League centre-back, you know. He's I actually had him in my fantasy a few weeks ago and he scored. I can't remember who he was against. But yeah, I think he is a brilliant player. I think, you know, him going into most Premier League defensive back lines, I think he strengthens a lot of them. He's got that experience. I think he's pretty switched on, and you know, it'll be difficult to break down today, but I mean, looking at that forward lineup, he's going to have his work cut out.
Yeah, absolutely will. Well, listen, let's hear it from a Brentford fan who's called Billy Grant, or as he's known amongst friends and fans, Billy the Bee. Here he's given us some insight and his take on the Brentford team and Brentford season so far.
Listen, we're cool. You know, you've got to remember where we've come from. And I'm not putting ourselves down, not putting Brentford down at all, but we have come from, you know, the reality pill of where we've come from was the game that we played in the midweek, where we played Gillingham. And we normally play Gillingham every single year. Ever since I've been supporting Brentford for 40-odd years, we literally played Gillingham every year, and there would be a battle between us. And I've been to Gillingham more times than I've been to my paper shop up the road. I can tell you that much, you know. So that was kind of like really weird. We're playing Gillingham, and we used to play them all the time, and we're the big Premier League team, inverted commas, and they're like the small, you know, team, and they brought 2,500 to Brentford, where, you know, normally they bring like 2,500 to Brentford, like, you know, so it's quite a weird scenario. So we haven't forgotten. and especially the fans that have been around a lot, how far we have come and where we've come from. So, to say, we should be at the top of the league, we're not even anywhere close to that. We are happy to be in the league. We're happy to, get results like beating Man United 4-0 this season, which was a very happy result for us, and we'll probably talk about that if you want me to. I can talk about that all interview if you want, because it's games like that, beating Arsenal 2-0 last season, which are things that we really savour, beating Chelsea 4-1 on their own turf as well, sort of kind of West London rivals. Those are the things that we savour, being in this league, and we're just happy to have the opportunity to be there. So I'd like to think we'll approach this game in the same way that Thomas Frank approaches other games, where we will, we can only stop City from playing their game to a certain extent. But then what we will do is that we'll try and hit you on the break. We'll try and kind of contain the mistakes that we make, where sometimes we make mistakes in defence, and we'll make sure that our midfield are combative and that they're actually on point. Because if our midfield are on point, then we actually play really good, a really great game of football. If we find that we're overrunning midfield, then we could find it a very, very long afternoon. So you never know, but I don't think it's going to be anything like that Man United game where we spanked them 4-0, and I have to repeat that again. I don't think it's going to be anything like that at all, because City are a different beast, and you've got one beast up front who knows how to put the ball in the back of the net, even if he only has one touch a game. One touch, one goal, which is really frustrating. So we need to be totally on our A game.
Thanks to Brentford fan there, Billy Grant, or Billy the Bee. As you can see, the Brentford lads now are coming out to warm up on the Etihad pitch. 12:30 kickoff. It's our last game before the World Cup, and there they are, the boys in blue, making their way out onto the Etihad Stadium for the last time until just before Christmas, of course, because as we know, in the Carabao Cup, we've got that fixture where we welcome Liverpool into the quarter-finals of the League Cup. Just a final word there. You mentioned about Ivan Toney's one-touch kind of finish as well if he gets a chance, but then we have to give credit. There's Mbeumo, who I think today makes his 50th Premier League appearance, the first one to do it for the Bees, Paul. He's been really key into the way Brentford play, and has been colossal really for them in midfield.
He's been great, and he's a real threat going forward as well. I think he's only 23. Obviously with the connection with Max. I've watched Brentford quite a few times, and I've been really, really impressed with him. And I asked Max about him, and he said that when you see him in training, when you see him in games, he said you've got to see him in the flesh. He said the potential he's got is much more to come from him. Considering, I was surprised it was only 22, 23. I thought he was a bit older than that in how he plays. But especially on the break, he's really, really quick, and he's got a great connection with Ivan Toney as well, which they work a lot on. So fair play to him. He's done really, really well, because he's one of the players that when possibly they're down the Championship, maybe wouldn't have seen to go on to that next level, but he has done.
Yeah, absolutely, and as we can see as well, it's definitely been working for them. They've been reaping the rewards, but let's hope Laporte and Akanji and Rodri will be keeping them too quiet today. We have got in the studio, you'll see next to me, tennis star and lifelong City fan Liam Broady, and we of course need to talk about you, Liam. So first and foremost, how's the kind of summer been, and how's your season been when it comes to tennis?
Yeah, man, it's been good. I mean, the last 2 years really have been pretty amazing. Just really trying to professionalise myself as a person. I mean, probably being from Manchester, there's a lot of mischief you can get up to on the weekends and stuff, which doesn't...
Stay away from Kel.
Yeah.
Stay away from Shay and Paul. Stay away from me.
We're going with our project tonight. So, the last few years has been a real process of, off the court, just trying to really make the right decisions more. And, I played the Olympics for the first time, which was probably one of the best experiences of my life, actually, to be honest. One of my proudest moments for my family as well, having done that. And then playing Wimbledon this year, I made the third round, which is a career best for me as well. So that, starting to see some products of the sacrifices, and just planning to do that for the next few years and see where we can go with it.
Well,
really.
we've been absolutely loving it, and I think all Mancunians can say they're so proud. It's always, I think when you've got someone from home, Paul, it makes that little bit more special, doesn't it?
It does, and especially knowing a City fan as well.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been vocal about that as well, like with the celebrations and stuff.
Well, speaking of the celebrations.
Love that.
Tell you what, was that
the Manchester B on the wrist as well.
Come on, I mean,
there we go.
Liam, was that planned, or was that one of those spontaneous moments?
Do you know what? The funny thing was, I did it in the first round as well. I don't even know why I did it, to be honest. I just obviously an absolutely massive City fan, and I've been rooting for Jack at City for the last year now, because I think he is one of the best players in the Prem, and I think he gets such a hard time from the press, from other teams' fans, you know, because of the price tag, because of who he plays for now. I think people love to hate City as well. So, you know, that was my little way of showing support. And obviously the second round, I did it again, and it was obviously in front of a bigger crowd, and after a fifth set and being down the way I was, and it caught on a bit, so yeah.
I mean, Shay, I wanted to ask you, because I mean, you played with Jack, and I mean, he probably would have been a bit younger, but what was he like as a younger person, and as well, just love to know a little bit on your assessment on him while we speak.
I mean, I've got a lot of time for Jack. I know him well as a you know, ex-player at Villa, of course, and a friend as much as anything, you know. So I think Liam had the nail on the head there. He does get so much stick, you know. If he plays well and gets an assist, he's like, oh, that's expected of a $100 million player. And if he has a quiet game, it's like, my God, what a waste of money. And it's kind of like, there seems to be nowhere in the middle, like, you know. But I just feel that, you know, this season, even I think it was 4 or 5 games on a bounce, he played really, really well. I think he got rested for a game, but then he got rested for a couple of games. I think Jack's a bit frustrated he doesn't play regularly. That's the only thing that. But then you got Foden, and obviously we talk about Mahrez and all these different players, you know. So Jack's got to probably just realises that it's such a big club with such great talent around him as well. He's not going to play every game, but when he gets the opportunity again, I suppose like Foden today, they have to take it, because there's always someone wanting to take your position.
I suppose that's the thing as well, right? Because I mean, you could also argue maybe Mahrez would probably not be happy with not starting every game, and Phil would not be happy with not starting every game. So that's
probably one of the biggest problems that Pep has. It's keeping all these brilliant players happy. Because they can't all play. 11 players only can play, you know. So they've got some great talent.
I think if you know you're coming to Man City, that's going to happen. And you've got to accept it. Just going back to, what was the Olympics like?
It was insane. I mean, I was actually the last person to make the GB squad, funnily enough. So the entire GB team for every sport was already out there, and I got a call about 2 days before. I was sat at the National Tennis Centre in London from the head of the tennis for the British Olympics, and he called me. He's like, "Do you want to come play the Olympics?" I was like,
Call you back?
And actually, I spoke to my coach, and I spoke to Andy Murray as well, and I mean, Andy basically said to me, it is the best thing you'll ever do. And obviously Andy as well, he's got 2 Olympic gold medals and a silver, so he's got a pretty good experience of it. But going there, it was just, I don't really know how to describe it, because it was kind of rubbish as well, because we were in lockdown. So you couldn't leave the campus. But when I say the campus, it was like a town. It was 40,000 of the world's best athletes, all within these 20, 30 apartment blocks. You know, Team GB had our own apartment block. I was actually in an apartment with Max Whitlock and the GB gymnasts, so that was nice to see. I actually really enjoyed seeing in other sports, you know, I always find it so interesting, the elite sports, seeing what they're like. And he was like, I mean, obviously for how successful he's been, his focus was just like, it was laser, it was crazy.
It's always intrigued me, you know, because obviously it's individual sports, isn't it? But these all come as part of a team.
But
within that village, that's the thing, you know, because when you tennis and then
so we have like
the diving and
so we have like I can't remember what the specific title is, the guy who basically is the head of the entire Team GB, and it was tough because a lot of us didn't go to the opening ceremony, because I mean, it was like, I think when I played there on one of the days on court, it was like 47 degrees. So we made the decision not to go to the opening ceremony, because even at sort of 7, 8 o'clock at night, it's still 38 degrees, and if you play in the next day in 45 degree heat, I mean, it's not viable, and we'd be waiting for 2-3 hours to go out, and so I was pretty gutted that we didn't get to do that. But I mean, the rest of the Olympic experience, I mean, the only way I could describe it is like just a mammoth university campus with just the fittest people just walking around. It was insane, and we all get these like little badges, so like Team GB badges, and they become like a currency in the village. So everyone goes around trading them, trying to find the best, the rarest tags that they can find. And Andy, I mean, being his competitive self, was the only one who could trade selfies for the badges. He's walking around for like 3 hours a night trading selfies for these tags. So he's got bags of them, and we only had like 10 of them. But yeah, man, it was cool.
Well, I mean, it's a testament, obviously, as well to your hard work and talent. You don't just be a part of Team GP, you know. So a massive congratulations for all the success, Liam. And a couple more questions I want to get over to you. I mean, Andy Murray, we know, is a big Hibs fan. I wondered, are there some, I know you're such a big vocal football fan. Who's the biggest compared to you, do you think, out of the other on the tour?
I think Andy has a bit of an affinity for Arsenal as well, actually. I don't know if that's because I think one of his best friends goes a lot, and Jamie, his brother, is a big United fan. There's quite a lot of United fans on tour, actually. There's one City fan, Malek Jaziri's a Tunisian guy. And then there's another guy who's a little bit lower in the rankings, but I'm trying to think who else. I mean, it's mainly United fans, to be honest. Yeah. There's a few Liverpool fans as well.
Oh, there always is somewhere.
Yeah, give it a few years now. I think we'll start seeing a few more Blues.
Nadal is in Madrid, I'm guessing.
He's one of the biggest Real Madrid fans you've ever seen. I mean, it's funny, I've been in the locker room with him a few times and wound him up because he doesn't like, obviously, I mean... That's it. Real Madrid, United, all these guys, they don't like seeing City do well, do they? So they tried to give it us about the way that the club's been going the last 10 years, and I just wind them up to no end. But yeah, what can you do?
We've had quite a few questions coming in, so if I don't get through all of them, we're going to go throughout the show, Liam. But this first one comes from, we haven't left your name, anonymous, but it says, being a Stockport lad, who were your favourite brands growing up around Manchester?
Brands?
Bands.
Oh, sorry. Oasis for me.
Yeah.
I mean, they're from Burnage as well, which is about 10 minutes away from me, so Oasis are massive, and I absolutely...
And they're half Irish, aren't they?
Hey,
Good Irish name.
Yeah. And I tell you what, the band I can't get enough of at the moment are the Stockport band, the Blossoms. Blossoms, man. Absolutely
great guys as well.
class.
They really are, aren't they?
Yeah.
We've got this one here from Alice, and you mentioned there's quite a few United and Liverpool fans on the tour. It says, have you ever faced an opponent knowing that they support a rival team?
Not really. Do you know what? And it's funny because Shay said before, do you know, about the international football coming up. Once you cross the lines of the court or the pitch, none of that comes into your head, does it? You just focused on winning the game. And it's the same in the tennis as well. I mean, you could hate the other person you're playing, but once you cross that, you just, you know, you're focused on winning. It's the tennis and nothing else, and it's the same in any sport, I guess.
This is just for me personally. Obviously, you know, we had Federer retiring this year as well, which was an incredibly sad and very moving moment, I think, as well. But, you know, do you have any stories either about, you know, your Federers or Djokovic's or Nadals?
So I mean, I've been lucky enough to have practiced with Roger, with Nadal, with Djokovic, and I've played.
Now you're stuck with us three. See the way you've moved up in the world.
I tell you what,
it just chucked Nadal in there earlier before, didn't it?
Yeah.
Jamie Dickey once. Across the fence.
Badminton and all that. My God. And I played Andy on centre court at Wimbledon, which was a humbling experience. That one wasn't as enjoyable, but. Federer, I warmed him up for when I was a junior for his semi-finals of the Australian Open against Nadal. He lost that day, but it wasn't because of the warm-up. But he was one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and it was funny because I walked up to him. He was at the practice desk, and obviously I was like, "Oh, you know, Roger, I'm Liam. Like, nice to meet you." And he went, "Oh no, I know your name," and and he started talking to me like I was one of his mates. He was very funny, and I was thinking, this is weird. He knows who I am.
Yeah.
You know, I've been inspired by you for like 5-10 years already, and he knew who my coach's name was. He knew everything, and we had a practice, and it was.
Didn't know your weaknesses. He was watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Watching videos the night before
for the practice, and we practiced, and he was just messing around the whole time, like trick shots, the lot, just so relaxed, so calm. And one thing he loves doing is the scare cams, like scaring people. Okay. So he'll always be jumping out at people, and his coach will be picking up balls, putting them on his racket, and he'll scare his coach, and the balls will go everywhere. He's just like a big kid. It's so funny. But I mean, it's tough, man, because I don't really think there's anyone really like it in football. In the sense that obviously there are so many huge players, whereas in tennis, Roger's defined the sport for 20 years, and he's kind of transcended it as well. I mean, for me, Djokovic and Nadal, of course, are the greatest players as well, but I mean, he is the greatest athlete that I think the sport of tennis has ever produced. So I mean, it was an emotional moment, I think, for everyone involved in tennis to hear that he was finally leaving the sport.
Coolness personified as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
man. What a cool dude.
Goodness me.
That's Liam Broady there, who's with us in the Matchday Live studio, alongside Shay Given and Paul Dickov. The Etihad Stadium is slowly filling up, and I'm not sure if we can see them on that shot there, but just down there to the left, we've got a certain Alistair Mann, who's joined by Andy Morrison today, who have got commentary. Remember, you can get that on the City Plus City app, and then you can get City Plus on there. So let's get Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison's thoughts ahead of our game against Brentford this afternoon.
Pitch side, myself and Andy Morrison will be bringing you the commentary when the game kicks off in a few minutes' time. Andy, I know we're 7 days on from that game against Fulham, but there's a lot of people I've spoken to still reflecting on it being one of the most dramatic games they've ever seen here at the Etihad. How high do you rate it?
Well, I think, Ali, that on the cold reflection on the following morning, you're thinking it's Fulham at home. You know, what was all the hoo-ha about? But the emotions of the game and the pattern of the game created something very special. And by the end of the game, you saw the reaction of the manager at the final whistle and the players. And, you know, it was over 70 minutes with extra time with 10 men. And they dominated it. And they had to try and find a way to win a game. Because of the way the race is at the minute, you know, obviously it's between Arsenal and City at this moment in time. Knowing that they're playing the following day, the importance of that 3 points going into this break. And I think only when we look back in time we'll realise how important a game it was, because everything was against City at that point, and they somehow again found a way to win.
You've been involved in games as a manager, as a player, when a side's gone down to 10 men. Have you ever seen a team be as brave as that last week? No, I think, you know, there's a point where I think Fulham have got to think we're coming to the Etihad and we're playing against an incredible team. We'll take a point. You know, the worst case scenario is that you get hammered here, you know, so if we can leave with our pride intact and not get hammered and lose the game by a couple of goals, it's not too much damage. But, you know, to get a point, and I think that's what they were looking at, the point, which I think then keeps the door open for an opportunity for City to win it. Rather than go and try and get a 2-goal cushion and then defend it, you know, they went back very early, and, you know, remarkable effort and a resilience as well, and a strength of character that I think will hold us in great stead in whatever comes along. We went 2-0 down against Crystal Palace and they found a way to come back. We're 1-1 with 10 men for 70 minutes. You don't forget that, and it creates a strength within the group that doesn't matter what happens today, lads, whatever adversity comes along, we will find a way to win this game of football. A series of changes in midweek for Carabao Cup, and now 8 changes today from the Chelsea game to the Brentford. You've had a look at the lineup. What do you make of it? It's really strong. And I think at this moment, all through the season, there's periods where players come right into form. And I'm not saying they drift off, but they're highlighted by the way they're playing. And at the moment, De Bruyne, Haaland and Bernardo Silva, for me, are the energy. And they're the 3 players that you don't want to see on that team sheet. Everybody else will play a role, but they're so at the top of their game at this moment in time. And when I saw the team sheet, I just felt this is going to be a really, really tough ask for Brentford today. And talking of Brentford, they seem to have switched to a 5 at the back, or so it looks like. Is that something that a lot of teams think is the best way to combat City? Well, for me, for many seasons now, a 5 with our wide men man-to-man marked by the left and right wing back of the opposition. I think that is the most difficult. There's then little pockets to the left and right of their midfield 3, where De Bruyne picks the ball up very well and causes problems. But it won't be a 5-3-2. It will be a 5-5. The two strikers, Mbeumo and Tony, will have roles and responsibilities out of possession where they have to stop people and stop passing lines. So they'll be defending with 10, but it'll be, you know, it'll look like they got 2 up top, but it won't be. Well, it's rather surreal for me to say this, but this is the last game for 5 weeks, and the World Cup comes along. If City can win today, and they might even end up top of the Premier League going into the break, Champions League qualification, last 16 of the Carabao Cup, how would you assess this first chunk of the campaign? I think it's been what we've expected, and I don't say that in an arrogant way. I just think what we've been privileged to now for many seasons, and the standards are relentlessly high. There's 4 trophies to play for, and City are trying to win all 4. And they're not putting any, you know, of course we know the Champions League, the importance of that to us, but the League Cup, the team that's put out the weekend, the manager is relentless in his pursuit of perfection. And if you're trying for perfection, which is the 4 trophies, and you come up short and you get 3, and I think the form has shown this season that it's been the same pattern of relentless brilliance. And you know, we're very, very privileged and very lucky to be seeing this every time that we come to the Etihad. Well, me and Andy are very privileged to describe every kick of the ball, which we'll be doing for you this afternoon. Kick off in a few minutes' time. Do make sure you download the app, and me and Andy will bring you every kick, every header, and hopefully every goal.
Thanks so much to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison there, and we've done a little substitution here in the Matchday Live studio, because now it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Jamie Carr, Academy Coach. Welcome to Matchday Live. Now, we're not quite here to talk about football though. We're here to talk about Jamie's unbelievable challenge. Now, I've got it written down here. For those of you who might not have seen, I don't know where you've been hiding, but get on this. I'm not going to tell you. Jamie, tell us about this challenge you're embarking on.
So, long story short, in 16 days' time, I will set off for a solo Atlantic row across the Atlantic Ocean, which is basically me and a rowing boat, which is 7 meters long, and 60 days across the Atlantic Ocean unsupported, with no one there to help me and no shoulder to cry on, I suppose.
What?
I thought he was a mad Irishman. He's just taking it to another level.
Yeah, that's two of us.
Lads, you've never thought about taking on a challenge like that?
No.
I mean, Jamie, it's incredible when you do hear that. I mean, what kind of ignited this thing to go, this is something that I kind of want to do?
I suppose it's part of a larger challenge that I wanted to do for many, many years. And then over the COVID period, it sort of kicked in where I was like, I could now do the two challenges I've always wanted to do, and tie them together whilst raising a lot of money for these two amazing charities that I'm supporting. So the aim is to raise £50,000 for these two charities and do something really positive.
Well, listen, on the donations as well, anything you can give and help Jamie to this, I mean, you've heard it there, this incredible challenge. We're going to put some details up. That's how you can get involved, and anything you can do to help Jamie along would be much appreciated. And of course, as well, I'm sure those donations will help, I'm sure, when those moments come, because it's not going to be a, pardon the pun, plain sailing. Am I right? Cool. Yeah. But I guess those little things, they do help you, don't they, when you're taking on a challenge like this?
Yeah, so my first challenge, when I did the ultramarathons through the Sahara Desert, I remember getting sent messages through of just saying, right, more donations, more donations, more donations. And that genuinely, on the long day, which was the 80k double marathon, that spurred me on more than anything. Wow. And I know it's for such a great cause. I'm doing it for City in the community here and their mental health program called City Thrive. So I know the money's being used for a really good cause, and I've been to some of the sessions in the community and seen what a great job the staff are doing there. So yeah, it's for such a brilliant cause, and like anything that you guys can support me with would be massively appreciated.
I was just going to ask you, how do you get through them moments? Like as Kel says, you know, you maybe fall asleep in the thing, whatever, because you have to recover, obviously, and you wake up 2 miles back where you started. You know, how do you mindset, or how's your mentality to get through that, or is a storm, or all these different things that you come across? How do you get through that on your own?
Yeah, I suppose when you set off, you haven't got any choice, so you've already made that decision, if you know what I mean. But I'm doing a lot of like the psychological prep now around what am I going to be like in my first storm, what am I going to be like when the boat capsizes, how am I going to act, what am I going to do. So all that sort of prep has gone into the last sort of few months, and that's how I'm going to prepare myself for those big moments that are inevitably coming.
Are you nervous?
Yeah, I am. As I get closer, I'm getting more and more nervous, but I'm also getting massively excited. This is the part that I signed up for, really. This is like go time. This is the adventure side of things. So yeah, I'm really, really excited now. There is part of it that are really, really scary, but yeah, no, this is it.
I mean, you're not long to go now, so I mean, what are the kind of, is more or less all the prep and training and done, as you say, you kind of the mental side you're preparing for, but what will be happening between now and the challenge, which I think, how long is it to go now?
It's 30 days until the challenge starts, but I leave the UK in 16 days, so yeah, between now and then it will be the final big blocks of training. I'll have a couple of big weekends between now and then where I'll spend like up to 6 hours on the rowing machine, which, as you can imagine, you guys have probably done it in training at some stage. It's just a little screen in front of you and a blank wall, so yeah, I'll do a lot of psych training around like not using music, no TV, just me and a row machine for a lot of hours between now and then. And then when I get out there, it's final checks on the boat, some safety briefings, some bits and bobs around how I'm going to communicate with people when I'm out there. And then it's the big fundraising drive for me, because I want to raise all this money, so it's going to be important. I'm going to send back daily videos so I can keep everyone updated with what I'm doing out there, what a day in the ocean is like. So that's the plan.
So Christmas Day is on, Christmas Day is on the boat on your own?
Yeah, Christmas Day will be, it won't be a turkey dinner, that's for sure.
Have you got a target in your head about how long it's going to take you, or is it just a case of getting there and doing it?
Yeah, I'm hoping for somewhere between 55 to 65 days. I have 2 months in my head. If I can get that, I'll be pretty pleased. But with this challenge, you're at the mercy of the weather, so it could take up to 85 days.
Yeah.
If I get a couple of bad storms, I'm getting blown back 3, 4, 5 days.
Gosh,
and that's where the psychological test is, how you're going to deal with that.
You can't phone a taxi or nothing. A boat taxi or something.
No Uber, no.
Do you know what I've got to say though, mate? Inspirational, absolutely fantastic. Well
I
done,
took the dog for a walk last night. I thought I was home now. He's just put me back in the place there now with the roan.
Well, Jamie, you know that I can speak, I think, for all fans and everyone at part of Manchester City. We're behind you. We wish you all the luck, and we're going to be playing those videos out as well on the show, hopefully, so we can keep people updated. You'll have to come back when you return as the hero that you are.
100%, yeah.
Justgiving.com/campaign/nothingventuredjc. That's the website where you can donate to Jamie, who's taken on this incredible challenge. And we wish you all the luck. And I know someone else who was just as much surprised and blown away by this challenge was Phil Foden.
Yeah.
He sat down with them. I mean, he couldn't believe it, could he?
Yeah, he couldn't get his head around the size of the boat. He was like, "What? You're going to sleep there?" And I'm like, yeah. Not only will I sleep there, I'll eat there. That'll be my living room. That'll be everything.
It's
so,
everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, listen, we're going to see that VT now, and Jamie, just to say again, good luck, and yeah, we wish you all the best.
Thanks a million. Really appreciate the support, guys.
Well.
Fantastic.
There we go.
Cheers.
Here he is with Phil Foden.
Let's have a look. Come on, let's go. Let's go. I'm Jamie Carr. I'm an academy coach at Manchester City, and later this year I'll be rowing 3,000 nautical miles solo and unsupported across the Atlantic Ocean as part of the Talisker Whisky Atlantic Challenge. So as part of the challenge, I'm supporting 2 charities. The first one is City in the Community, and the money that I'll be raising will be going towards their mental health programme called City Thrive. So that's a mental health programme to support children in the Manchester area and give them awareness and coping strategies around mental health. And then the second charity I'm supporting is Cancer Fund for Children in Ireland. That's a charity that's there to support children and families after cancer diagnosis. Cabin there, that's basically where you live day to day.
It's not a lot of room, is it?
Well, you'll see in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to I'm going to be a load of detail out. So I know you've done rowing and stuff before, obviously at the club. It's not pretty, is it?
It's not pretty.
It's not
Get
pretty.
tired after half an hour. I don't know how you do it for hours, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
crazy.
When I'm out there, it's going to be like 14 hours a day. So. But obviously the dangers are you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on your own with no one around to support you. So for someone that's never been on the ocean before, I'm not a sailor and I have no maritime background, that's obviously a challenge for me.
Be scared of the ocean as well, man.
We're not fancy enough?
No, not when it gets wavy and bumpy.
Yeah.
I'd be scared.
I'm not good at any of that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
so much to go wrong. Can you take your phone and that, yeah?
Yeah, well, it doesn't work. There's no signal out there.
No signal.
So I have a sat phone that I'll be able to make a few calls about, but not much. Mentally and physically, this is going to be a challenge, but probably this will be much more of a mental challenge than a physical challenge. Yes, rowing 14 to 16 hours a day is going to be a physical challenge, I get that. And that is going to be really challenging for me. However, the mental challenge of being alone for sort of 50 to 60 days, that's going to be a huge mental challenge for me. That's why.
Fair play to you, man. Fair play. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme. Like,
it's not for everyone.
There's room for 2, Phil, if you fancy it, but if you ever wanted a little mid-season break.
And I will wait until you get back and tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, meet me in Antigua, but we'll have a good catch-up.
Yeah.
It will undoubtedly be the greatest challenge of my life.
Shay's bottom. We'll be the welcome party.
Yeah, we can all meet him in Antigua. No problem.
We will get out there. Listen, that's Jamie Carr's challenge. Justgiving.com/campaign/nothingventuredjc. That's how you can donate, and of course some of that money as well for City in the Community. Speaking of which, just quickly, we've got our big Christmas campaign for City in the Community coming up. It's called A Time for Giving. So if you check out the Manchester City website, go on the City in the Community part, all the details on there. And as we build up to Christmas, we'll bring you more information about that. Liam Broady is back with us in the studio alongside Shay Given and Paul Dickov. Now, before we get final thoughts, because it is, 11 minutes until kick-off here at the Etihad Stadium. Quick word on, of course, the World Cup That is, I mean, a couple of weeks around the corner. Obviously, we're not back till after that, post-Christmas. Paul, we've got a great amount of Manchester City players going away on international duty, which is, again, testament to this team.
And I've no interest in it, mate. Scotland.
Me either.
I didn't want to mention it, but...
There's no surprise, though. But now, look, it's amazing. That's what success gives you, isn't it? We've got a squad full of world-class players. Even you look at the bench today, you look at the bench the other night there, and it's going to be interesting. You know, I don't know who I fancy. I actually think England will do well.
Yeah.
But you look at Brazil and Argentina; they're unbeaten in a couple of years, both of them. You get France, Spain, Germany, Holland got a good young team. You know, I just hope it's. I know people are. There's a lot of question marks about the time and in Qatar and everything else, but you look at the quality of football that's going to be out there. I hope it's going to be fantastic to watch.
Shay, I mean, as I said, that's kind of the question. Is there anyone you're earmarking as potential people who you think maybe even not to win it, but get to the final possibly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a City point of view, first and foremost, Pep's probably thinking they all go away now. Like as you said, I think 15 or 16 players are going to leave the club and be off playing in a busy schedule in a World Cup. You just hope they all come back because they're obviously flying so high in the league and stuff. But I think as Paul mentioned, you know, Brazil, I think the Samba boys will run it close. I mean, Argentina will be a bit of a fairy tale story with Messi maybe picking up the World Cup, and then, you know, our very own Kevin De Bruyne, I think if he put his hands on that trophy, you know, wouldn't be a better midfielder in world football to get his hands on that trophy. They could be an outsider maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. What about for you, Liam?
What about for me?
Who do you think could win it?
I don't think England are going to win it, man. It's bad to say.
It's fair.
But I just look at the other sides, like, you know, your Frances, your Germanys, your Spains, Brazils. They've got such a pedigree in the World Cup as well on top of that. And I do think that we put so much pressure on the England squad, and it's so hard to perform with that. So yeah,
it's going to be. I think that seems to be the consensus that you know. And as you say, I think it's hard.
Just as English people, you're just talking it down. Is that what you're doing?
Well, I feel like Paul's trying to jinx it over there, saying they're going to do well. So I'm trying to go the other way.
Just quickly, because Rodri was speaking about this for you both as well. There's been the whole thing about the call-up, and as we know, there was a couple players we were waiting for in City if they were going to get it. What is that moment like when you do get to represent your country?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to play in the World Cup in Japan and Korea in 2002, like, and yeah, I mean that realisation, because I was a fan, obviously growing up in Ireland, supporting the team, watching the Jack Charlton there, watching these great World Cup teams of Ireland, and then they have that realisation that, wow, I'm going to go now and represent my country on the world stage. The biggest stage in football is just, you know, but like Liam mentions, the Olympics are one of them sort of stages, you know, the whole world stops to watch the games, you know, the whole country sort of shuts down.
It's bigger than sport, and
it's just unbelievable, you know, and it just gives you such a special feeling. As you say, there's a few lads maybe here at City, even, you know, probably Phillips is the obvious one that maybe didn't play enough football this year, and was he going to be in, was he going to be out, but, you know, Gareth's gone with him, and you just hope he comes back fit as well.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's not long to go here till we hand over to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison, who've got commentary, remember Manchester City app, but don't worry, we're all going to be back at half-time and at full-time, hopefully, speaking about a Manchester City win. Speaking of which, let's get some final thoughts and predictions from our panel. So don't worry, Liam, I'll let you sit on it for a second. Paul, I'm going to come to you for... You always fill me with confidence.
Absolutely.
So
well,
what are we thinking?
I said in the social media thing at the start, and this was before we knew Haaland was playing, that I went 3-0, Haaland hat-trick.
Tell you what, I love that from you. I love that. What about you, Shay? How are you feeling?
I think I went with the social media team was 4-0. You know, I'm not as confident Haaland will get a hat-trick. I'm not saying he won, but if he gets a couple, it'll still be a good afternoon for him. But yeah, I'd like to think they can get the job done today, and I'd say a bit of a break before the next game.
Absolutely. And Liam, final thoughts from you in a prediction?
I think Haaland first goal, 34-1.
Love that. Gents, I've got to say, I've absolutely loved this show. It's flown by. So massive thank you to Paul Dickov, Shay Given, and tennis star Liam Broady. And thank you to you for watching. So remember, we're back at half-time and at full-time. Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison have got your commentary, who I'm going to hand over to just in a second. But we're going to be coming out a couple moments earlier here at the Etihad Stadium. You see, we'll be wearing our poppies as well, as this is the final game at home ahead of Remembrance Sunday, of course, remembering all those who are with us and who aren't, who have fought over the time. So we want to kind of send all our love and respect and condolences to the family and those as well that are part of the armed forces. There will be the moment of silence here in the Etihad Stadium, which hopefully you'll join us for. And please remember, wherever you're watching the game, we want to make sure we create a fair, loving and beautiful environment for every football fan. So let's make sure we continue that as Manchester City fans. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at half-time. And now it's handing over to Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison. Come on, City.
Well, very warm welcome.